You should watch Grimm's Gathering on the Versaplane. Yes, Himbo. Everybody should watch Grimm's Gathering on the Versaplane. Captain Eggs. I'm 20 messages behind. Oh no. Well, okay, so we're at 16, 17 people in here. That must be what happened. Let's catch up. Thoughts and prayers is all we get from the right. Yeah, well, and the problem is I know what the right's thoughts are. Like every time we see a right wing pastor get arrested for molestation, every time we see a right wing politician get, busted for cheating on their spouse, I know what the right wing's thoughts are. Every accusation from the right wing is a confession. So, like, when they give us their thoughts and prayers, I'm like, return to sender, please. I don't, I'm good. You can frame it however you want. Violence on both sides is wrong. See, Stewie, that's the weird thing. The idea that violence is wrong flies in the face of 250 years of American history. This country has been at war for about 95% of its history. Violence has always been the answer in America. Did we defeat the Nazis by trying to negotiate with them, or did we go to war with them? Like, when someone indicates that violence is the language they speak, if you indicate to me that Greek is the only language you know, I can't speak to you in English and think that we're going to have a conversation. I have to speak to you in the language that you know. So if someone indicates that the language that they understand is violence, then I have to speak to them in the language they understand. So pretending that violence on both sides is wrong is idiotic. And it flies in the face of everything this country was literally built on. We didn't negotiate our way to independence. We're not Canada. Canada negotiated its way to independence. America decided to kill people. That's how we declared our independence. And we didn't do it for freedom. We did it because a bunch of white guys didn't want to pay taxes. It started from money. So, like, pretending that violence isn't one of the most American things on the planet is kind of foolish. So, how do you propose to respond? Oh, that was to him. Howdy Cap, what's your opinion on the left arming themselves actively in this time? Human.exe, I I made a video a little while ago. I think it was when the 4B movement was when I first became aware of the 4B movement. I made a video encouraging. I encourage. See, I'm a huge Second Amendment proponent. I want every woman to be armed. I want every person of color to be armed. I want every Muslim to be armed. I want every atheist to be armed. I want every Jewish person to be armed. I want all of the people who have been victimized by certain groups to be armed. Because if you, and this is why Stewie, he's got an idealistic point, but it doesn't work in reality. Because if you have one group that is heavily armed, and we do in the United States, we have roughly 300 million guns. I think that's the number. It's roughly one gun per person. But not every person owns a gun, which means there is a smaller group that is hoarding all of those guns. And so if you end up with a situation where you have people who espouse peace and people who espouse pacifism. And then you have people who are armed to the fucking teeth and have like doomsday bunkers. Then the end result of that is going to be very, very bad for one side. And so this whole idea that the right pushes, oh, more guns equals more safe. They're not entirely wrong. They're just right in the wrong direction. Because the left, and that's the really funny thing about the right, is the right thinks that the left doesn't have guns, which is one of the funniest things that I've encountered in at least in my 5 years on social media. Um, is this misinterpretation that the left is anti-gun. The left isn't anti-gun any more than anybody's anti-car. Right? You have to have insurance to have a car. You have to take a test to have a car. You have to have a license to have a car. You have to have your license updated every now and then to keep a car. None of that is anti-car, and none of that infringes on your right to have a car because none of it infringes on your ability. So if something doesn't infringe on your ability to do something, then it does infringe on your right to do it. And so the idea of regulating a manufactured machine. We regulate every other manufactured item. A gun is a manufactured item, and it's an item that can kill people. Yes, it has to be used by a person, but it makes the ability to kill a person as easy as flicking your finger. This can kill a person with a gun. And so an item that makes it that easy for a person to kill should be highly regulated and should be, you know, licensed and insured and, traced. Um, and so the idea that the right thinks that the left is anti-gun is hilarious. So if it ever came to the thing that certain right wingers pretend they want, there's going to be a real shock when they discover how armed the left actually is. I'm 18 messages behind. I apologize to everybody. Let's see here. Guns are regulated. That's the problem. Jesus can't save us. No, it's true. Honestly, I'm pretty anti-gun. We should be like the UK in that regard. Yeah. He absolutely can have an open mind and heart. Have an open heart. You can't. Well, see, Stewie. Here's the thing: you can't have an open heart. This is one of my problems with religion. And see, now we're going in a completely different direction. We're going to get sidetracked again. Is that when people are like have an open heart, you're speaking in metaphors, right? That's not a thing you can actually do. Your heart is a blood pump. It is not a sensory organ. So, like the idea of like have an open heart is kind of meaningless. It's a poetical phrase that doesn't actually mean anything. You mean where they get stabbed so often the government wants to ban ninja swords? Same way we banned assault weapons. Yeah, human.exe. If you look at the period where we banned what the government legally defined as an assault weapon, um, the number of shootings went down. Like that's a historic that is a mathematical fact. And it's really weird, like what the left wants to regulate and what the right wants to regulate. The left wants to legally define what an assault weapon is so that they can, put restrictions on it. The right wants to legally define what gender is so that they can put legal restrictions on it. Like that's the reason that the right wing consistently asks people on the left what a woman is. They are forever asking us to define a woman for them. And realistically, it's just because they want to know which group of people to pay 78 cents on the dollar for the same amount of work to. I'm good. Your God watch slavery. I'm gonna catch up with everybody. You have to take a test to get a driver's license. They said it's determined at conception. They don't know by. Oh no, absolutely not. Yeah, that's the thing. Like that's the problem when you let politicians try to. This is why I don't remember. I don't remember who talked about it. It was a comedian talked about where is the rest of human society in politics. We have business people, we have politics, we have poli sci majors. Where are the poets? Where are the artists? Where are the scientists? Why do we not have any other representation of any other field in politics? Like, we need scientists in elected positions because then they can put scientific information. We can't have a dude who, like, we can't have a decrepit septuagenarian writing executive orders defining things like gender. Like, it's completely insane. I barely know how to articulate it because it is so insane. I'm just gonna catch up here. A test on how to care for gun, right? Like, that's the see, if you join the military, they don't just give you a gun and send you out. Like you have to fucking train. You have to know how to take that thing apart and put it back together. You don't have to know how to clean it. You have to know how to maintain it. Yeah, yeah, some definitely don't. There is a distinct anti-intellectual thread in at least modern America. I mean, I can't speak for everybody else, anywhere else, but not every owner has a concealed carry. Most don't. Yeah, no, are you sure about that? Am I sure about what? I am sure about extraordinarily little. I am generally sure about what I believe on non-factual things. Brain dead account. But here you are, Melvin. If I'm brain dead, you're sitting here listening to a brain dead guy talk, redefining everything from war and birthright citizenship, but it's the left changing, right? Right, Young? the, the 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 right wants to insist, and I am stealing this, I am borrowing this from someone else on TikTok. The right wants to insist that you can't just change your name, right? You can't change your identity. And yet they want to change the Gulf of Mexico to the Gulf of America. Like, I don't understand. And like I said, I'm glad I don't understand. Thoughts on Liberation Day tomorrow? I have not heard about this. What is Liberation Day? Liberation Day, April 2. Oh, is this about tariffs? Oh, we're screwed. But see, this is I talked about this, and this is actually why I came back around. The state I live in does not require registration license, and straw purchases are legal. Liberation Day is when the stock market's going to crash. Yeah, yeah, no, 100%. And this is what I talked about. So I did some live streams in November of last year, um, and it was after the election. But it was about how people on the left had warned people for 6 months. Some people have to learn the hard way. Yeah, we had warned people for 6 months. I was warning people for 6 months that Kamala was almost certainly going to lose, and I voted for her. And I made videos encouraging people to vote for her. But like, just looking historically, vice presidents who run for the presidency have a it is an extraordinarily difficult position from which to run for the presidency. So she had about a 15% chance of winning. Can't wait to leave this country. I'm saying that as a good, yeah, yeah. Um, but yeah, she had about a 15% chance of winning. So it was very unlikely that she was going to win. And I was making videos explaining why in advance, so that I knew I wasn't going to turn any. There's 77 million people who were going to fucking listen. They didn't fucking listen anyway. Chris, see, this is why have they lost your vote forever? I feel like some people enjoy the chaos. I don't know. Some people just want to watch the world burn. Yeah, why have the Democrats lost your vote? Or more specifically, what about the Republican Party do you think is good? Because presumably you're voting for the Republicans because you think they're better than the Democrats. And so I want to know why. If they let Bernie run in 2016, Trump never would have won. We don't know that. He didn't even win the primary. Democrats are not extreme enough. Okay, now that's fair. That's fair. Because Obama is was seen as this big liberal president. Obama is, I mean, he's a centrist. If anything, he is a slightly left leaning centrist. Um, the window of American politics is not left and right. The window is like center and far right. We don't have a left wing in the government. We have leftism in America in the population, but we don't have in the government at all. Maybe like AOC is left center. Um, the Democrats are capitalist. Yeah, oh, yeah, no, 100%. This is what I've said about the Democrats and the Republicans in terms of their politicians is that if someone is a politician, they are a capitalist. Um, Politicians are in the business of serving corporate interest, all of them, because you can't run an election, you can't run a campaign without money. Right. Yeah, exactly. We need money out of politics because the only way to run a campaign is with massive amounts of money. And the process that you have to go through, I made a video about the process because I had a bunch of people, asking if I would ever run for politics. And I was like, absolutely the fuck not. And I made a video that was like 3 minutes long about all of the process, all the paperwork, all the documents that had to get filled out, all like this incredibly complex process of running for office. And that doesn't even get into the amount of money that you have to raise. And so unless you have one of the most galvanizing campaigns imaginable, you're not going to raise that from the average person. So you have to, if you're going to start running for office, you have to take well, it's not a popular contest. See, here's the problem. We don't get to just choose our politicians. We have to choose amongst the politicians that corporations hand us. Because corporations are the ones that give the amount of money necessary to run a political campaign. And they're only going to give that money to someone who they think is going to go to Washington and serve their corporate interest. So we have the illusion of choice. And that's the thing about the Democratic Party and the Republican Party is we have the illusion of choice. We have some people that are beholden to certain corporate interests, and we have some people that are beholden to other corporate interests. Now, the difference between the Democratic Party and the Republican Party is that the Democratic Party, in my experience and in my recent history, because the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, yeah, I can't say I would never vote for Republicans. Since living in North Carolina, I have voted for Republicans, certain Republicans in local elections, but they're not like deep right conservative Republicans because there's a difference between someone who is a Republican and someone who's a member of the Republican Party. And I made a video about this. Republican means a thing belonging to the people. It comes from the Latin res, meaning a thing, and publicus, meaning belonging to the people. So that's why in is it Article 4 or 5? No, it's not 5. It might be Article 6. It's in the Constitution. There's a section that says that the United States, the federal United States government, will guarantee to each state a Republican form of government. That doesn't mean a Republican Party form of government. Um, Republicans don't listen to their constituents more. They listen to the people who paid for their campaigns. See, any politician, they need your vote, but they need corporate money. Um, Republican Republican and not every Republican is MAGA, but every MAGA is Republican, right? It's like saying that cats and mammals aren't the same, or that mammals and cats aren't the same thing. All cats are mammals. There are no MAGA who are Democrats. Um, who's refusing to host town halls now? I don't know. I mean, I assume they're talking about Republicans, but no. What I have experienced is that the Democratic Party, while being beholden to corporate interests, understands that profit has to be made sustainably. The Republican Party wants to strip mine everything all at once, make as much profit all at once, and then just let the carcass sit and rot. And that's what we're seeing. That's what we've seen for the last, for since Republicans since Reagan have been just this strip mine mentality. Get as much profit as we can, as quickly as we can, hurt as many people as we need to along the way, because there's this mentality. And part of it is religion's fault, because the right got infected with this like eschatological vein of Christianity where they really think the world is going to end in their lifetime. Like right wing Christians really believe the rapture is going to happen in their lifetime. So there's no incentive for them to give a shit about the future because they don't think there's going to be a future. The Democratic Party, in my experience, is more interested in making profits, but in a way that is sustainable long term. So there is a difference. They are both owned by corporate interest, but there's enough of a difference to me that I will vote for one over the other. People forgot Project 2025 goals. Christian theocracy. It's yes, I want left wing candidates, not make believe ones. I never understood that because Jesus and many religions are woke. Oh my God. Yeah. Oh yeah. Jesus is a Middle Eastern socialist. He's a Middle Eastern socialist and pacifist. It's insane to me. The version of Jesus that American would call it Christianity, like whatever this bastardized version of Jesusology, like the fanfic of Jesus is completely different than what the real guy would have been. I'm looking at Norway, Australia, or Iceland, a socialist that tells slaves to obey masters. I did Jesus say that, or was that in the Bible? Or like was that in other parts of the Bible? I don't remember. I don't remember. Invite me, you'll be my first five. Oh my God, Walter, did you just Walter just did an interview with Magus who said they would accept him to America if he went. No. Through Jubilee. That's amazing. That's really amazing. Now, like that's the funny thing is that Jesus won't and this is actual biblical. This is red words. Jesus won't recognize MAGA, and MAGA wouldn't recognize Jesus. Um, did Jesus tell slaves to obey the masters? Here we go. While the New Testament doesn't directly address slavery in the way modern discussions do, Paul, not Jesus, urges slaves to obey their earthly masters. Well, Jesus did not. Jesus, what are we at here? Jesus did not. He didn't come to change a dot or tittle of the old law. He did say that. You are correct. Yes. Um, but so much of what he said also does, to a degree, contradict some of the old law. But no, you are correct. He did say that he came to fulfill the old law. Realize every time you type on that keyword, you're getting information from someone else. Yeah, Nick. Um, all information comes from someone else. Like who? Where do you get information? Does it just like get downloaded into your brain from a god? Like all information comes from somewhere, unless it is a thought that you had in your head. All information comes from somewhere else. Learned information doesn't come from somewhere else. Nick, where do you learn information from? Booger Scotch, yes, yes, thank you. Jesus did say the greatest command. So Jesus said there are two commandments: love God and love your neighbor. Um, the God one seems a little self-serving because of the nature of the biblical relationship between God and Jesus, in that we're supposed to think that who's your neighbor? Everybody is your neighbor. God is a woman, and Adam is the one who listened to the serpent. Well, no, God is clearly a woman because if you look at humanity, it is said in that book that God created humans in their image, and it is plural. It says that let us create man in our image, male and female together. So even the Bible understands that gender and sex are different. But when the Bible uses the term man, it is referring to male and female. Man meant people or person. Um, but if humanity is created in a God's image, all you have to do is look at which side of humanity creates life and which side destroys. It's the women that create, and it is the males that destroy. That's why nature is called Mother Nature, because nature is the source of life. And that's why time is called Father Time, because time destroys all things. And so God isn't a woman. If there is a God and it is anywhere related to the biblical God, God is not a woman. It is both. It is all, because if it created humanity in its image, humanity is immensely diverse, which means every possibility in humanity that exists is part of the image of God. Agreed, nature and nurture. I think we give Jesus too much credit, to be honest. He said tons of shit. I absolutely agree. Jung, so that's the thing. I'm not a Christian at all. Um, but I treat Jesus like any other philosopher, right? There are great things that Socrates said. There are great things that Aristotle said. There are great things that Plato said. There are great things that many great philosophers said. I don't treat any of them as divine, right? I don't look at Socrates and go, he said this great thing, therefore he is God. So I treat Jesus the same way. He said some good shit. He said some off the wall shit. He said, I came not to bring peace, but to bring a sword. And I'm like, I don't have to listen to that thing because he's just a dude. Um, the shit he said didn't matter to me. And that's perfectly fine. Yeah. I mean, it doesn't matter to me any more than, like I said, anything that Socrates or Aristotle or Plato would have said. I wouldn't say destroyed. I would say aggressive to non-aggressive. We learn from our parents and our teachers. Yes. Let's see here. And they teach us there is a God above, correct. The facts are not in evidence. Many people claim there is a God, that there are gods, and that there are no gods. I see no evidence that leads me to believe there is a God or any gods. Um, so I don't believe that there is. We don't even know for sure Jesus existed, similar to Socrates, but most scholars aren't mythicists. No, that's true. Yeah. Um, I honestly am, and I know that I am in the minority on that. I think that Jesus is essentially a compilation of myths built around multiple different people who existed at roughly that time in that place. I know that I'm in the minority on that, which I'm perfectly fine with. But the thing is that that's not my field of study. So I don't know the documentation and the facts on it. Aesop. So yeah, yeah, exactly. Weirdly, the movie Hercules that starred Dwayne Johnson is an interesting parallel to that, because it's the idea. It's the that version of the movie is sort of the way that those events could have happened in reality and then become mythicized later. I've heard stories of here we're living in 2025, and yet there's very little in 300 years after Rome. Elon just got wrecked in Wisconsin. Oh yeah, yeah, I heard about that. I actually heard about it in here on the Supreme Court election. There, Jesus most likely existed, but all the Gospels are written by tertiary sources. Yeah, and so there was when I got one foot in each sort of on each side of the fence about that. There was absolutely a person named uh, Yeshua. Those people existed. There was, and so there was there was somebody who, like, most of the stories that occurred in the Bible, if you look at sort of the granule of what that event could have been and then become mythologized, it's the way that, like, a story you tell from college 50 years later is not at all the way that happened. Now, if you layer in supernatural effects, you end up with the Bible. So, yeah, there was undoubtedly a guy. His wouldn't have been named Jesus, but it would have been in Aramaic. His name would have been Isho. Um, did 20-minute warning. Why are people going after Elon Musk? Because he is evil. Like, he is actively evil. Synoptic problem is very interesting. Yeah. Um, no, because Elon is, well, besides being, I don't know, can I get away with this word? Besides being, see, he's not an actual Yahtzee, right? It's tempting to say that because he did. What has he ever done that is evil? Um, it's tempting to say that he's a Yahtzee because he did the literal Sieg Heil salute twice in public and was cheered for it. Um, what he's done that is evil is the same thing that Bill Gates has done that's evil. It's the same thing that Jeff Bezos has done that's evil. It is resource hoarding. Um, Nobody can make $1 billion through their own labor. It is impossible. It's not possible to do that. Like doctors who literally save lives don't make $1 billion for the work they do. Teachers who educate the future of humanity don't get paid $1 billion for the work that they actually do. In order to become a billionaire, you have to exploit other people's labor, which means you have to trick other people into doing all the work and then you take most of the profit for work you didn't do. And then by hoarding all of those resources, you create you create an entire class of people who are working their entire lives and getting almost none of the fruits of their labors. And you're hoarding all of the resources for yourself. That is evil. You're creating suffering and you're doing it for your own enrichment. You are literally making other people suffer so that you can be richer, which is just about the definition of evil. Now, on top of that, the problem is they're so greedy. Yeah, right. I mean, even the Bible says greed is the root of all evil. A lot of people quote it as money is the root of all evil, but the actual quote is that the love of money is the root of all evil. The love of money is greed. And so, like, even biblically, if you want to pretend to be a biblical Christian, you cannot serve both God and money. You cannot serve mammon and God. It's either God or money. And Elon is serving money. I mean, there's no question about that. Now, it's tempting to call him a Yahtzee when he gets up in front of, a massive crowd of people and literally does the Sieg Heil salute, not once, but twice. I can't quite let myself do that because the Yahtzees were a political party that existed at a certain place at a certain time in history. It would be like 100 years from now if somebody was doing something awful and somebody then called them a Republican. It doesn't make sense, right? So I don't even know that he's a Republican. He's a South African. Um, he is actually here illegally and has been here illegally for a long time because he violated his student visa when he came over. So, like, he's here illegally. Um, but yeah, it's tempting to call him it, but what he is, one, is a Yahtzee fetishizer, and two, he and the people he's working with, Trump specifically, are literally taking pages out of the Third Reich's playbook. So, no, they are not strictly Yahtzees because they do not belong to the Yahtzee party because there is no Yahtzee party in this country. Hugh Brandon, there is no Yahtzee party in this country. There is a Republican Party, and the Republic. Now, here's the thing, right? I have made. He doesn't have well. He might now, but he should. He's not eligible for it. Like, he got whatever citizenship he has now. He attained illegally because he violated his student visa. Um, well, and that's the thing, right? Like, it's the fruit of the poison tree. Like, if he violated a student visa and stayed here illegally, then Lots of people, yeah, well, they do overstay visas, and then they're not here legally anymore. Like that's just sort of the way it happens. Um, I think Melania had a similar situation. She was on a work visa. Um, the thing about the Republican Party, and it's not just the Republican Party; it's the entire U.S. government. Um, Captain America: The Winter Soldier was not just a piece of fiction, right? It included Operation Paperclip. Operation Paperclip was an actual military operation from 1946 to 1954. After World War II, there were 14, 15, 1600, so 1,600 Yahtzee scientists after the fall of the Third Reich, and there was a race to scoop them up because Russia wanted them. The USSR wanted those scientists. They wanted those brilliant minds. And the US wanted those brilliant minds. Well, the US said, well, we can't let Russia get them, so we're gonna scoop them up. So the United States scientific apparatus, NASA, the US government, absorbed 1,600 Yahtzee scientists. And I don't mean just people who like these were actual literal Yahtzees, actual members of the Yahtzee party. And the US government absorbed them. So we had a country that was built on slavery, that had slavery codified into its United States Constitution, though they were too cowardly to actually use the word. But we had slavery codified into our Constitution. So we were born out of slavery. And then about 200 years later, absorbed members of the Third Reich. And so the state of the Republican Party right now is absolutely unsurprising. I'm sorry, but someone who fires people without due cause or even learning what their job is not a good person. No, absolutely not. Like that's why after the election went exactly the way some of us knew it was going to, some of us warned people it was going to. I was talking about these are the reasons why. It wasn't doomsaying. It wasn't fear mongering. It was, the economy's going to tank. The economy's going to fall off a cliff. And, rights are going to get taken away. Um, because we have 400 years of economic history and capitalistic history to look at. We know what has happened in the past when these things have been done. So people were like, well, what if you're wrong? Well, I'm not wrong about what tariffs do. We have 400 years of capitalistic history to look at. So we know what's going to happen. The only way I'd be wrong is if Trump didn't do that. Like if Trump decided no tariffs, okay, I'm not wrong because I'm still correct about the effects that tariffs have. That thing just didn't happen because he didn't implement tariffs. Should Congress people know inside trade? No, Congress people should not be allowed to own stocks. Look, I don't know the specific mechanism by which that could work, but like at the very least, Congress people should not be allowed to buy or sell stocks while in office. At the very absolute minimum. Misinformation is absolutely destroying the country. And it's not even, I don't even know that it's the country. Misinformation is destroying our ability to like understand things because we're at a point now. It used to be pics or it didn't happen, right? We're at a point now where it could be pics and it still didn't happen. Like we can generate imagery that looks real enough that millions of people will be tricked into believing that it was real. So we've reached this really strange point where like video and audio and pictures can be faked. And so it's like it's misinformation, but it's like misreality. Should Congress? What are the books behind you? So these five, like this is the Lord of the Rings books here. This is a 1954 edition of The Hobbit. This is the Silmarillion. The the I think these six here are actually the DVDs. Uh, these are a set of books, a trilogy of books by a local author, and then these are Tomi Adami's fantasy trilogy. There, the VA takes care of the veterans that MAGA claim to respect and love. Nimue, I have. I don't know. Patrick Lawler said something to this effect, so I can essentially say that I'm paraphrasing him. But the government loves soldiers who die in battle. The government dislikes veterans because they didn't have the decency to die for their country. And the thing about veterans, the thing about people who need VA assistance is that the government broke them, right? And I thought it was you broke it, you bought it. Like you broke it, you take care of it. Like if you broke it, it's yours to take care of. And what the right likes to say about you know women and not allowing for abortion. You made it. It's yours. You made it. You take care of it. The government made those veterans. It's they're theirs. It's their responsibility. I gotta catch up. Here we go. It's so depressing. Dead soldiers are cheaper than injured ones. Yeah. Oh god. Ed Cottonville. What's up? Look at info. The VA has been understaffed. Do you think government handouts are a good or bad thing in your opinion? See, I don't like that language. I don't know if you feel like you're setting me up for a gotcha question. What the right likes to call government handouts. The right loves government handouts. They just don't like government handouts going to the public. They love government handouts when it's going to corporations. They love giving money to large corporations. It's the whole lie of trickle down economics, of Reaganomics, of voodoo economics. The idea that Republicans are convinced of the idea that money is subject to that wealth is subject to gravity. They think if you give the money to the people at the top, to the CEOs, to the corporations, it will trickle down to the workers, which is like provably false. We've seen that for 40 to 50 years. It is the exact opposite. Trickle down economics has led to the widening gap between them. It's just about led to the death of the middle class and led to the widening gap between the haves and the people with the most and the people with the least. Um, the way the economy actually works is evaporation economics. When money starts from the bottom, it works its way up because like if you've got what's of um if you've got a an upper lower class worker and this person gets a $10,000 tax refund for whatever reason, that person's going to take that $10,000 and they're going to spend it. They're going to pay off debts, or they're going to buy whatever. Like they might buy stuff they need, they might go buy luxury items, whatever it is. They're going to take that $10,000 and they're going to spend it in some way. They're not going to Nobody who's you know working 40 hours a week at a barely above minimum wage job is going to take $10,000 and put it into a 5% 12-month certificate. Like these are people who are already drowning in debt. So they're going to take that money and they're going to spend it. They're going to feed it back into the economy. So if someone gets a $10,000 tax refund and they go and they buy a $1,000 TV at Walmart, that money is going into Walmart's money, and then it's going into the paychecks of people who work at Walmart. So even if the right pretends to have a problem with what they call government handouts, um, that money goes into the pockets of working people because they want to pretend, oh, that's this is we're just giving money to people who aren't working. They're spending it at places that are putting it into the paychecks of people who are working. As opposed to when you push money all the way up to the top and you give it to the CEOs and those people will take that money, will take those millions, and they'll put them in offshore accounts. And that money will leave the economy and it won't come back in. It won't filter back in. The economy is like a water cycle. And so when the money starts at the bottom, it evaporates up and then it works its way back around. Um, I had another thought. I don't remember where it went. No, this is an honest question. This isn't a gotcha moment. Okay, I'm sorry that I took it that way. Um, that was the most Republican thing I've heard you say. Well, I mean, it depends on what you mean by Republican. Do you mean like Republican Party, or do you mean like Republicanism? Because the Republican Party today doesn't believe in republicanism. The Republican Party today essentially believes in an oligarchy, which is essentially what we have. I am an independent. I'm not I'm not a conservative because and the issue that I have with like libertarianism, the idea of being like socially liberal, fiscally conservative, is that you can't really be fiscally conservative. Like fiscal conservatism hurts the populace because it's this idea of like the government not spending. The government, the people at this point, a lot of people have this notion of the government as being this thing that is separate from the people, right? There's this notion that there's the American people and there's the government. And that's not the way it works. The government is the people. It is a representative democracy. That's what a republic is. It is the well, it's not 340 million people, but it's about 155 million people. 155 million people picking amongst themselves representatives to send to a central location to make decisions on behalf of everybody else in an ideal scenario. Um, so the government is a small, it's a, if the people are a circle, the government is a smaller circle within that circle. It's not two separate circles on a Venn diagram. Um, and so when you say government handouts, what you're saying is the government brings in money, most of it through taxation. The government brings in money. That money needs to go somewhere. The reason the government brings that money in is so that it can, and it's in the Constitution, so that it can take care of the general welfare, the national defense. There's like I'm going to pull it up because I want to get the verbiage right. But there are three main things that Congress is meant to spend tax money on. United States Constitution wiki source. And the thing about welfare is that that word appears in the Constitution three times. The phrase general welfare appears in the Constitution. I'm sorry, twice. The word welfare appears in the Constitution. It is twice. I'm sorry. It's in the preamble. Um, to ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, and promote the general welfare. And so when money comes in through taxation, this is why I don't really care about taxation. Taxation is not my biggest concern. My biggest concern is how the money is spent. I want the money that the government takes in to be spent on the people. I want it to be spent on programs that are going to help the largest number of people. I am I am of the Spock mentality. The needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. And Cory Booker said it amazingly. We don't begrudge anybody who has worked hard and made, built a business or who has built wealth through their own labor. Those people don't need the government's help. Those people are doing fantastically on their own through their own efforts. There are millions of people who are in bad situations not because of their doing. And even if it is because of their doing, we all benefit when we all help each other. Like that's the what is the saying about a rising tide lifts all boats. Like if there are people that are suffering, and this is what I didn't understand, just specifically about the healthcare debate. The idea, like if people are suffering, the entire system is not operating at maximum capacity. You wouldn't drive around in a car if you knew that like 70% of the parts were borderline rusted. That's insane. But that's what we expect the country to do. We expect the country to operate with 70% of the parts, 70% of the people having barely enough to get by. They're cutting money. Yeah, they're cutting money from all the wrong places, and they're giving it, and they're funneling it. That's why when the right talks about wealth distribution, how much they hate wealth distribution, what they're talking about is they don't like the idea of tax money coming into the government and then going to the majority, going to a lot of people. They love wealth redistribution as a premise because they love taking money in and giving it to the rich. It's the opposite of Robin Hood. They're stealing from the poor and giving to the rich. Is Lil Bro serious right now? Trump the goat. BZ1, Trump is absolute garbage. You and I both know that. I never knew the right could be so cruel until this administration. Yeah. Well, see, I that DNA was always there on the right. Because I remember in the 90s hearing Rush Limbaugh. See, that's what's so funny to me about the right crying in their pillows, crying their salty conservative tears when they're called Nazis by people on the left. Because Rush Limbaugh spearheaded this movement in the 1990s. He literally invented the term feminazi to refer to any woman who wouldn't bow and kneel to the patriarchy in the 90s. So the right has been calling people who disagreed with them Nazis for the past 30 years. And so to see modern Republicans, modern regressives, modern conservatives clutch their pearls over being called Yahtzees is mildly hilarious to me. And maybe I'm just Pepperidge Farms now because, do you remember when Rush Limbaugh was calling women feminazis? Pepperidge Farm remembers. What's your opinion? No. What's your opinion on other economic systems like socialism or communism? Just about no system works on its own because like if you look at the way the American economy is set up, we have socialistic elements. The police are socialistic. The fire department is socialistic. Public education, which this administration is trying to destroy, is socialistic. Public libraries, public roads, it's all socialistic because you don't pay for it personally. If your house gets robbed, if your car gets broken into and the police show up, you don't have to write the police a check in a society with no socialistic elements, you would have to write the police a check because they're providing a service, but you don't have to personally pay for police protection. You don't have to personally pay for the fire department. You don't have to pay to get into the library. You don't have to pay to drive on the road to get to work unless you drive, you ride on a toll road. And some people ride on a toll road, but if you're riding on public roads, you don't have to pay for those things because they're paid for out of tax money. That is socialism. That is a socialistic aspect. When everybody puts money into a pot, hey, Peyton, Nimue, we can mark down Peyton has hit the Funko Pop element of the bingo card. Yeah, Peyton, these were all gifts. Like, it would be impolite of me to not put gifts on display. Like, it's because my screen, if you look, they're almost all Captain America because my screen name is Cap Without a Country. I've actually got more over here if you want to mock me about something. Um, but yeah, I have things on display. I assume then if you are mocking me for what I have on display, then you have absolutely nothing on display in your mom's basement. I'm sorry, in your apartment. I'm sorry, in your house. Um, you do through taxes. I work on the road. Right. No, that's what I'm saying, Nick. You don't pay individually. Like if you go to the store and you buy something, you pay personally for that thing. If you hire a maid to come to your house, you pay the maid to clean your house. If you hire a lawn service to come mow your lawn, you pay them individually at that time. If you drive on the road, you don't pay to drive on that road, assuming it's not a toll road. If your car gets broken into and the police show up, you don't write them a check right then and hand it to the police. That service is paid for through tax money, and not just your tax money, everybody's tax money. So everybody pays their taxes into a pot. That money then turns around and goes into services that benefit everybody. It's called a cooperative. I work for a credit union. I work for one of the nine largest credit unions in the world. It is a cooperative system. Everybody puts their money into a pot. I don't want to call it a pot, but everybody puts their money into a pot. And then the people who need it are able to turn around and use it. Or it is turned around and used for things that benefit all of the people who put the money in the pot. That's why credit unions have members. Not everybody can join a credit union. You have to qualify for membership because the money that goes in is from the members, and then the money that goes out benefits the members. In the United States, all American citizens, anybody living in this country, is a member of the cooperative. And I say anybody because the Constitution doesn't specify only citizens. The Constitution specifies that even non citizens are supposed to have representation in the government. Because the Three-Fifths Compromise doesn't say three-fifths of slaves, it says three-fifths of all other people, all other persons. At this point in history, all other persons includes any undocumented migrants that are in this country. They are constitutionally guaranteed representation. So, like the state of Florida or the state of California, I think the state of last I checked, the state of California had about 36 million citizens, and rough estimate about 3 million undocumented migrants. So we're talking 39 million people. The 36 million are supposed to be represented at one rate, and those 3 million undocumented migrants, by the Constitution, are supposed to be represented in the House of Representatives. That's in the Constitution. Do I believe in free education? Yes. Free education pays for itself. See, the myth that Trump tried to run on his $4 trillion in debt was that it was going to pay for itself. It was going to pay its debt off. Free education, just in state colleges, like you can have private colleges, absolutely. But state colleges, if they were tuition free, if they were no cost to the students, would pay for themselves on the individual level over the course of 15 to 20 years. Because just in taxes alone, the amount of increase between the average salary of a high school graduate versus a college graduate puts the average college graduate in a higher tax bracket, which means they're paying more in taxes, which means the tax money they're paying is going back to fund future generations getting no cost education. That system actually does pay for itself. Hear me out. I agree the system is flawed. I work with people that want to come to America the right. I assume that is the right way. The issue with saying the right way is who is deciding what is and is not the right way. My ancestors didn't come here the right way. Like, we just showed up, right? European immigrants just showed up here and said, yeah, we like this place, it's ours, and we're going to kill everybody who's here. Like, we didn't come here the right way. And so, this idea of of setting up these, this due process, setting up these checkpoints for people to come in, setting up these processes, is that we came here and wiped out the people that were here, and then we set those things up. So, it's all the fruit of the poison tree. Trump is revoking a bunch of legal citizenship, but absolutely. Like Trump, Trump and people who support Trump don't even understand that Puerto Rico, as a Commonwealth of the United States, despite not being a state in the Union, everybody born in Puerto Rico since 1917 has had birthright citizenship. They are United States citizens, despite the fact that Puerto Rico is not a state, it is a Commonwealth. But Trump doesn't know that. And the people who voted for him don't know that. And that's this isn't just misinformation. This is just people not fucking knowing things. And this information is all freely available. It's like I don't have some special Google membership that gives me access to information that's off limits to other people. It's all free. Yeah, the 14th Amendment is birthright citizenship. Yep. Because that effectively reveals the three-fifths clause. Article 1. The three-fifths clause was in the Constitution. I can't remember off the top of my head which section of which article it was in, but the three-fifths clause is in the Constitution. Exactly. I hate being behind. I'm so sorry. I hate being behind in the messages because then I'll see exactly, and I'm like, I don't know which we're saying exactly to. Um, Nick, I assume you're saying you disagree with me, which I would assume so. I would, and not you specifically, but just given the outcome of the last election, 49.8% of the voting population voted for the twice impeached 34-time felon. 48.7% voted for Kamala. So half the country is going to disagree with me. That, I fully accept that. Yeah, if there's no due process, then they can take anyone they want. Yeah. Has he defined whose birthright citizenship he wants to remote? No, he wants to. See, I don't know specifically. I don't think he has said it specifically. It was talked about. His press secretary talked about it. I think they want to do away with the idea of birthright citizenship entirely, such that people born here would have to get citizenship later. The 14th Amendment repeals the three-fifths clause. Three-fifths clause is Article 1, Section 2. 14th Amendment amends it. Okay, I'm going to, you're probably right. Without due process, you are, yeah. And that's the thing. Which politicians do you align with most right now? Fucking Cory Booker after the last 25 hours. I haven't heard anything specific yet. They would have to amend the 14th Amendment to do that or just end the Constitution, which is scary. Yeah, well, and that's what, when Trump was talking about wanting to run for a third term, and he's like, well, there's methods you could do it. Yeah, there's one method by which he could run for a third term. They would have to amend the Constitution and repeal either the 22nd Amendment or the 12th Amendment or both. So yeah, there's it's possible. It is extraordinarily unlikely because the process for amending the Constitution, there's two ways to do it. Either two-thirds of the Senate and two-thirds of the House, so 67% of the senators and 67% of the House of Representatives would have to vote on a constitutional amendment. That means that 67 senators would have to vote in favor. That means 14 Democratic senators would have to vote with every Republican senator. 290 representatives in the House of Representatives would have to vote. That means 72 Democratic representatives would have to vote with every Republican representative. Um, do I think JD Vance will be his successor after Trump? Tyler, I'm going to try to hold on to that because I have opinions on that too. Um, that's already not going to happen. We're not going to get 2/3 of the Senate and 2/3 of the House to vote to amend the Constitution. Like that, just given those numbers, it's not going to happen. In the completely insane scenario where we did, that constitutional amendment would then get sent to the legislatures of the states, and 75% of the states would have to vote in favor of it. That's 38 states. That means that 7 blue states that voted against Donald Trump would have to vote in favor of a constitutional amendment along with every single Republican state. So it's not a 0% chance, but it is barely more than a 0% chance. Never say never. Sorry, that's a Justin Bieber quote. Well, never say never again was a Sean Connery quote that eventually got turned into a James Bond movie. We saw how it can be done with Putin and Medvedev too. I mean, if they buy now, here's the other thing. I said in a video, there's only one way to legally do it. If he just if he just circumvents the Constitution, just does whatever the fuck he wants, somebody has to stop him because I was talking to a friend. I was talking to a friend who's in the comments. Um, Murder's illegal, but people commit murders. Like the crime has to be committed before the cleanup can be done afterwards. So if Trump decides to just do whatever the fuck he wants, he's going to do whatever the fuck he wants. It is then incumbent upon Congress or the military or the people to step in and stop it from happening.